What up, y'all? Source here. Welcome to another episode of Source and Company. Man, I don't even know where to start with this joint. So I got my guy from the beginning, from very small. We were little kids together, and we're still rocking to this day. There's very few people I can say that about, but this is one of them. He is. I can go through a list of accolades and all that, but I would just tell you that he is the president of Motlow State Community College in Tennessee. And that's enough right there. We'll figure out how he got there and talk about some other stuff that I'm sure nobody else cares about, but we're going to talk about it anyway. My man, Dr. Michael Torrence. What up, bro?
What's going on? I appreciate you having me on. It's good to see your face.
Bro, this is some silliness. You have to forgive me. I'm going to laugh and I'm going to
it's all good.
Kind of way I want to act today because this is dope, man. This is dope to be able to talk to you on this type of platform, man. I'm glad to see you.
Oh man, like I'm thrilled that on the other end that I don't have any gray showing on this thing right here. So I look clean as a whisper.
Bruh, hey, you can't fight it for so long. And once it come in, you just got to rock with it. Just
you got to embrace it, huh?
Embrace that thing, man. That's all you can. That's all you can do. First of all, obviously, we're all going through the same things as far as COVID-19, pandemic, all that. But you've been on the move pretty much the whole time. Like you had to work, obviously.
Right.
How have things gone for you? Pretty much the whole time.
Well, the first and foremost is we've been talking about safety, health, and wellness. And at the end of the day, working with the people I work with, it's always about immediacy of making people feel comfortable. Because if you don't feel comfortable in your setting, you can't get to what our mission is, and that's student success and workforce development. So we've done all the right things. We shut down as early as March 8th and 13th, got people off campus, and we haven't been back in full force since then. However, we've used the same platforms that everybody else has utilized to make sure that we communicate, because that's, there's no such thing as over communication right now. So we've used Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google platforms, email. I've made videos, written tons of memos and op-eds, and our team has done the same, from the faculty, the staff, connecting with people in ways that we hadn't done before. We've set up pop-up tents for students and people in the community to drive through to pick up MiFis, laptops, tablets, books. We were going to do a STEM camp this summer. We ended up doing that STEM camp virtually. And we've added some things in terms of our XR, Extended Reality Academy. We're doing everything that we can to offset what mom and dad wasn't prepared to do, or grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles or cousins, whoever's taking care of these kids. We did everything we could within reason that we could do to support them. So that's the professional part that, I would say that my institution is as whole as it can be. And the people that I work with every day, they're as whole as they can be, and they've been working their butts off. Personally, I've been out and about on behalf of the institution, connecting with businesses and industry. I think it's really important that as people are in a crisis, you can take the time to sit back and reflect and say, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Or you can be active and be engaging and take the next steps for the organization and garner as much, I would say, market share as you possibly can, while everybody else is timid. We've been pretty aggressive in terms of setting up relationships that are going to benefit us in the long run. My family's good. My daughter has been off and doing a internship with a pretty big company, getting prepared to graduate next May. My son's 12, so he's like every kid, right? He's playing Fortnite and doing those kinds of things. Of and my wife is handling her business with the job that she has, and making sure that everybody in the house is good. So everybody's good.
That's excellent, man. Across the board, everybody's good, from the business side to the personal side. So that's cool. How has it been for the students that you've actually been in contact with or seen virtually? How's it been for them? Because obviously college age is different than elementary, middle school, high
Right.
school. So they're struggling a little bit more to get information and to give information to those kids. But how's it been on the college level?
Yeah, so my students particularly, on average age of our students is about 23. And, we have kids from the age of 14 all the way up to 80. So it's big, wide share of the community come and get something from us, teaching, learning, and training wise. But for your traditional age students, it's been tough. Obviously, we're social creatures, and to just cut that off, like turning off a spigot, that's difficult for anyone. We do well because we can connect with people on a day-to-day basis, whether it be at the gas station, at a pizza joint, or it's coming into a classroom. And for the students not to be able to have that hallmark benchmark conversation with their professors, or to see each other and share notes the way that they were that was common to them and was normal, that's been a big change and shift for them. We always say, and when I say we, I'm talking about the folks that are our age, who have kids and are, looking forward to retirement and all that good stuff. We always talk about how digital native these kids are, and that they're going to be okay if they get on this platform and learn in this fashion. But there's something to be said about a blended approach. They need both. They can't just do it. And we have, data to support that they don't just do well in one kind of environment. Mixing it up has always been important to everybody in every type of domain. And the students, they've been impacted in that way, that their inability to mix it up, to see each other versus to simply just be online, it's a different type of socialization.
Yeah, and it can get stagnant. I mean, for me personally, I'm good. I usually share that.
Right.
Obviously, we see people struggling financially, physically, however, across the board. But on a personal note, I've been good. I feel like I've been making the most out of the situation. If you can make the best, I guess the best out of a situation that nobody ever expected.
Right. We've tried to do a couple of things on behalf of the people that are contractual employees or students who would typically benefit from federal financial programs that we have in place. We waived the hourly requirement and made sure those students still were able to get their checks. For those who were contractual employees, we reached out to different businesses and industry, their HR departments, and said, hey, if you are hiring, what are you hiring in? We have a lot of talented people that as we close the books for fiscal year 1920 and move to 2021, there are going to be some people that don't come back because we don't know that we're going to need them for that role anymore as we move and migrate, right? This is also a chance for the institution and communities, as you said, like, don't waste this time. I've gone back and gotten a couple certificates. And, people say, well, you don't need that. Yes, I do. I need to learn every day like everybody else. Right. So it's important that what's free, especially what's free, go ahead and take advantage of building your skills, because when the world gets back to what we say is our adjustment to normal, it's going to be more fast-paced. The skill set for people to use information communication technology platforms is going to be more important and pressing. And you shouldn't think that business and industry is going to wait for you to catch up. They're trying to accelerate it themselves right now so they can catch up with Amazon, Facebook, Google, Alibi, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. When you try to blend, well, not try to, when you have to blend these things, once the world opens back up, like eventually the world's going to open back up.
Right.
Once it's open, I guess it's a question of how much these technological advances or these types of conversations, these types of, meetings, etc., will happen as opposed to going out into the world. For instance, we both enjoy music, hip hop.
Right.
A lot of the DJs that are online doing different things because they're trying to keep their sanity. Two, because they're trying to entertain their people, keep their fan base, and they're trying to make a couple of dollars on the side. So is that going to turn into the club,
right,
not being as popping because people can get the same thing at home without having to leave their home, and they can have a party with the DJ live right there,
Right.
That going to be more of a thing, or is the world going to really open back up to the point of how it was 12 months ago?
Oh man, so I can't talk about this without talking about the impact that D Nice had when he first kicked it off, because he's one of the first, at least who we recognize in the hip hop space, that did something that was broad and did something that everybody bought into. So when you think about spaces that are virtual or extended reality spaces, I can't see it going back to the way it always was, but I can see this being a new way to flip your entrepreneurial skills, your toolkit, and utilize it as a, hey, if you want to be with me in Ibiza, you could be with me in Ibiza, even if you can't purchase the ticket. If you want to be with me at the Jazz, live at the Jazz in Montreux, you can be with me. So I think we're going to see the proximity thing shift to where access is no longer an issue. It's a matter of, can you pay for the ticket? And that ticket can be an access ticket, not a ticket to get on a plane and purchase a place to sleep or find your wayward self around in a strange city. It's going to be, I'm going to get together with my closest folks, and we're going to listen to this music, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to eat, we're going to dance until they turn the music off.
That's it. That's it right there. It's the access thing. That's a great point, because obviously we have way more access to people than we probably need. Like, we don't need this much access to a lot of people, but that's where we are. And part of that is just keeping, back to the sanity thing, just keeping people from losing it. Like, people, if you're at home, if you've been at home alone for any extended period, like legit alone, and you only go out for food or whatever, like, I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine being home with a small child and you're a single parent. I need something to for a few minutes, and those DJs or whatever the case may be, that interaction, those technological advances are keeping us sane, for real.
Yeah, and so if people pay attention, and I'm sure people have been paying attention, whether you have little kids or not, but the introduction of things like Atari to the days we're waiting for a PlayStation 5 to come out. So if you go through that historical context and that span, you see the importance and the breadth of impact that games as a learning tool, as well as a social emotional development kind of tool to keep you connected to people. You see how important that is. So yeah, this $1 billion industry is just another prong on the fork, right? In terms of what can you do, one, to keep a little kid engaged so that you can have 5 minutes to yourself and talk to your homeboys or your girlfriend or whomever. So that it's important that and I feel for moms and dads that didn't come up with a background in education, or they weren't necessarily, you don't need a degree in it to be someone who can teach your child. You teach them every day, but if you weren't a prolific reader and know what types of tools to access, would be they virtual or something you have in the house, man, I feel for them. My son was looking forward to going back to school because he was like, Dad, I don't get this much work at school. And I was like, well, you need to finish that book before you get back on the computer. And sometimes vice versa, I need you to learn how to do that code before you get back to reading something else, before we engage in another aspect of your learning every day. The other part about it is, when we were kids, first thing in the morning, I think it may have been honeycombs or Cheerios, whatever it is that we were trying to eat real quick to get outside. And depending on the season, we were outside as the sun came up. So this has been a good time, I think, for people to reconnect with what's natural and organic around them. I haven't been outside this much in 15 years, in the last 4 or 5 months. And, I feel better. I think my head is clear. And, on the backs of all of the hard work that everybody around us in terms of the healthcare industry is doing to keep us safe and give us good direction, man, there's nothing better than fresh air, even if you got allergies.
You led me in 3 different directions. I'm gonna hit on this one first, though.
Okay.
Can I mention the physique change?
Oh, man, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you, I mean, I don't know what you were up to, but you have
Yeah.
quite a bit of weight, man. You look like you're ready to go hoop right now. What's up?
Hey, look, your mind and your spirit are something that are constants, and depending on what your jobs end up being, in my job, I sit down and I have breakfast and lunches and dinners and things like that quite often. So 25 months of that, and not a lot of physical exercise, driving in between 5 different campus locations and getting on planes, trains, and automobiles, ballooned up. So, I've dropped 52 pounds as of this morning. And it's not a matter of like trying to look a certain way. I just want to be healthy. So I need to get my body in tune with my mind and my spirit. So I'm almost there. I'm gonna get another couple lbs off, and next time I see you somewhere in Richmond or wherever it is that we're gonna link up, man, what happened to the rest of you? I'm like, man, I had to leave that other guy behind. That guy was killing me.
Understood. That's crazy, bro. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
That's real.
And I want to make sure I let people know that this isn't about a diet. I'm eating what I want. It's just a matter of moving every morning. So I'm simply walking 3 to 5 miles in the morning. I got a bike. I'll ride the bike. I double whatever I walk in the evening on the bike, and then I do light weights. Nothing crazy, and it takes me all of 2.5 hours to do all of that every day. That's it. Breaking it up.
So you telling me we don't have to kill ourselves to lose a little weight? That's what you're telling me?
No, we don't have to. We don't have to do that. I'm still, after we finish talking today, I'm going to go get my go-to. It's Doritos and apple juice. I'm still stuck on Doritos and apple juice. I'm going in there and I'm going to have me a bowl of Doritos and I'm going to drink some apple juice.
Respect.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a throwback right there. A throwback right there. So you had mentioned the gaming aspect. We got to get back to that because I want to go with at least a little bit. You mentioned childhood and just being outside all the time. I mean, we played everything: football, basketball, baseball. You like to play tennis sometimes. I can swim, you can swim.
Right.
We was always out doing something. Do you think that this moment will actually continue? Like, you think kids will stay outside a little bit more, or you think it's going? I mean, they're going back. It's kind of it's 50 that they're going outside more, but they're also stuck doing this more. So there's one outweigh.
Right. Yeah, and this is partly a socioeconomic status thing too, right? So, and a locale thing, because if a kid lives in the mountains, like we're near the Appalachians, so if a kid lives near the mountains, where he or she and mom and dad can jump on a bike and they can get to a trail and walk. Lock your bike up, jump on the trail, walk for a couple hours, see some cool stuff. That's awesome. But if you're in a cityscape, or if you're in between the city and the rural, like, where do you go? What do you do? I think that we found lots of fun things to do at the bottom of Squire Hill. At the bottom of that hill where that water ran through, we never went left or right, but we stayed in the middle of that puddle, right? Or little river, whatever it was called.
Whatever it was a mess.
Yeah, whatever it was. But I think that families, this has been a unique time for families, man, that you can reconnect with people, and the getting outside aspect, to not necessarily walk hand in hand as you walk, but just to be together as a group, literally your own tribe, being outside, getting fresh air, cornhole, bicycles, skateboards. I've even seen some kids, and I didn't know that the kids still played Jack Rocks. I saw some kids playing Jack Rocks the other day. But what always struck me as odd as an adult was the limitations of access to school playgrounds. We had access to the playground. We could jump the fence, and the cops weren't going to show up and say, "Hey, you guys can't be here. It's private property." Nowadays, or at least prior to this, I don't know if a lot of kids would jump the fence just to go shoot hoops or climb on that dome-shaped monkey bar kind of thing.
Right.
That some people lost teeth. We won't mention names, but just those types of things. But I think that it's going to be a continuum of how families stay connected, because I think to revert back to what we used to do and what we were doing, I don't think that was healthy for any of us. You drive in your car, you get out your air conditioned car, you walk through the parking lot and say, oh my goodness, it's so hot. You get into your air conditioned building, you sit at your desk for 7.5 hours, you do a power lunch where you order something, and you don't even go out and get it because you got DoorDash, Uber, etc. And then you get back in your car and you drive home. Like, come on. And you hear these birds out here, like that's important.
That's important. Hey, I mean, I hadn't even thought about it that deeply, to be honest. And I work from home on a regular basis, so
yeah,
I don't do a lot of outside, just regular outside anyway at this point, unless it's for a reason, for a reason.
Yeah.
But that is a great point. Maybe that health and that enjoyment of the sun, as my mom constantly talks about. It's the sun. I like walking outside and feeling the sun and blah blah blah.
Right.
So
right.
I will tell her that you agreed with her synopsis, I guess, on that.
Yeah, Miss Betty's always right.
Lord, nah, that's a whole nother story that we won't get into. So my first instinct, go ahead and kick it with you about the childhood and how we got all the way through things we've been through to this point. But you mentioned the gamer thing earlier, talking about just overall gaming to video games and all that. And you've actually found ways to incorporate that into the educational process, like for real, not like on a small level, on a for real level. So if you don't mind, talk about that, and maybe we'll touch a little bit on how you envisioned and ended up in this presidency.
Okay. Yeah. So the gaming of anything is, based off the fact that as a kid, grew up playing games. So when Sega had the grainy basketball game, and we thought that was the best thing ever, to double dribble.
Double dribble.
Right. You get over in the corner, you can't miss on the right side, and then on the left side, you shoot from the angle, 15-foot to free throw line extended to the left. You never miss, and then you could shoot the 3/4 court shot if you knew where to go, and it always went in. So
yep.
From that, it was a thing about engagement. So I always thought about games as a vehicle, just like music. It is a vehicle for engagement. And wherever you can meet your student, your employee, whomever, when you have something that coincides and helps them click, makes them click, you need to figure out how to leverage that tool to their benefit. So early on, I started with board games, and I had some students when I served as an assistant professor of education in Pennsylvania. I said, you know what, guys, let's do something different. We know that the game makers are Hasbro and Mattel. Let's make some games that are board games, and let's send it to them. And let's tell them that we would like for them to help us make this game and put it into stores. Well, all of my students did the game design. They worked with little kids to work out what they wanted, what they needed to learn, as well as what it should look like. Greens, reds, yellows, and blues. Those are the color schemes that kids are really attracted to. So I had one student in particular that created an ESL game, English as a second language game, and it went bananas. So she went from someone who was very, very on one end of the socioeconomic spectrum to doing very well for herself and her family because she created a game. You fast forward as technology started to infiltrate, literally like a virus, education. We started to see things like Minecraft. And I know I've skipped quite a bit to get to Minecraft, but utilize Minecraft as a vehicle to teach English. That's my discipline, and created a space where always loved the Wizard of Oz. That goes back to one of the favorite movies as a kid, but created a yellow brick road that was literally a pathway to some hidden chests. These chests were hidden under trees and caves, and inside the chest were links to TED Talks. Those TED Talks my students would review, and then they would write their response, not simply what they saw in the TED Talk, but how they felt going through this maze to basically a scavenger hunt to learn. When you fast forward to the next spot, I learned how to make my own spaces in Minecraft with Minecraft education. And so I created 4 different spaces. One, an island that had those trees and chests, then a snow-covered mountain where you got into the old miner's cart and you came across the chest with links again.
Right.
The third one was a farming community because I wanted to promote community with my students. And then the last one was a cityscape. So at the 2 highest spires, there were links for TED Talks. And in the middle was water. Because, everybody wanted to be Superman or the Flash or something like that as a kid. I wanted to be Aquaman because I always thought it'd be cool to be able to breathe underwater. So there's an underwater repository that after you complete the entirety of the course, you could go in there and click on different links that could take you to whatever you want to learn about. More importantly, students would have access to that in perpetuity, forever. What I failed to do, because I'm as I said, I'm still learning. I didn't get a server that was big enough, so the server crashed. I had to build it again. Then when the students finished that first set, the server crashed because I wanted to put more students in it. The second set, the second semester students, it crashed. Had to build it again. And then, I moved on to a different platform. I moved to virtual reality as an instructional tool and some free applications that took less time, did not require a server, and just required me to purchase the tools that the students needed. So started utilizing virtual reality and augmented reality as tools to teach English, but tied it to a social justice issue. So first day of class, students would have to let us know what's a problem you see in the local community, at the regional level, at the state level, at the national level, the global level, and you want to solve it. You want to try to come up with a solution to help with that. So they were charged with coming up with an application of their own design. They could work in groups or individually. And at the end of it, I would bring in venture capitalists that were associated with our chamber and small business incubators. And that would be their research project, because English 101, you got to have the research project. So they'd write about this, as well as moving towards understanding what it takes to develop a business plan, a pro forma. So it tied some of the aspects of business into an English class, but it's still technical writing. So my students will be that much more prepared for their next course. $2 million businesses came out of those classes. Yeah, one is called Food for Your Mood, that one of my students sold to Grubhub, and then another one's called We Deliver, which is another food delivery service, which was one of the venture VCs. Instead of supporting someone, he said, "You know what? I think I want to go ahead and start that business." So he's selling in Texas, throughout the Southeast. He's got these places called We Deliver, little We Deliver sign, and they do the same thing to DoorDash, Grubhub, and everyone else does. He's been offered a significant, amounts, 7-8 figures for his business, but he's like, I want to hold on to it, and maybe this is something I can pass on to my kids. So I know that we started with gaming, but that's where the gaming led. The gaming for me is in everything in terms of the classroom or connecting with people. It has to have a practical end, and the practical end is always to help people become gainfully employed and or entrepreneurs where they can feed themselves.
Wow, bro, that is heavy, and that's just a 3-minute blurb of just a piece of the things that you've been doing over the past 10, 15 years.
20, yeah.
20, yeah. That's crazy. All right, so we're jumping all over the place just because we can, and we'll have these conversations at other times. I want to touch on one thing that happened back in the day that may have I don't know why it happened, but I feel like it was a spark that caused some other things to happen. In 8th grade,
right,
you decided I'm not going to Manchester. I'm not going to Meadowbrook right now.
Yes.
I'm going to Blue Ridge High School.
Right.
Blue Ridge, all boys school, uh, in the mountains,
Boarding school.
boarding school. And you were like, you should go. And I was like, no, sir, I should. No, not at all. So you ended up going for a year.
Right.
But I feel like that decision, I don't know what it is. What was it in you that made you make that decision? I feel like that was it might not be, but I feel like it was a big decision that kind of changed your trajectory.
Yeah, and I would agree with you 100%. To go from Fallen Creek Middle School to Blue Ridge Prep in Dyke, Virginia, DYKE, outside of Charlottesville, and to go from wearing jeans and Reebok, because everyone was wearing Adidas, Reebok, and Nike and Puma, fat laces, the whole nine, to every day being a coat and tie, and having to go to morning assembly in Episcopalian ideological setting, right? Understanding who St. George is and all that kind of good stuff. It changed my perspective because of the people I got to meet in that 1 year. People with last names that are legacy last names from Jamestown. Their families are still in some way, shape, or form engaged in some of the success that Virginia has had as a state, as a Commonwealth. So my weekends weren't normal weekends anymore. I was in a boarding school. I wasn't coming back to Richmond, but I was going all over the place with my classmates, going to their homes and seeing places that were as large as our apartment buildings as someone's house, and seeing a Ferrari for the first time, seeing the symbols in which we associate through our historical and sociological context of what it means to have, seeing those kinds of things, Fendi, Gucci,
Right.
and it's just a normal thing. Having a spoon, another spoon, two forks, two different kinds of knives,
Right.
and linen as your tape, your napkin for your legs, and when you have dinner. So this idea of what else was out there, what I had already seen, and then getting introduced to what it meant to get prepared to go to college. They really didn't talk a lot about the basketball aspect, because that was going to be a given, that so long as you kept working at it, there was going to be somewhere that was going to allow you to come there and play. But it was really a preparation for life, some independence, making sure that you were at where you needed to be 15 minutes early, not on time, that you were dressed appropriately, that you learned how to tie a tie, and learned how to tie a bow tie. And part of the first part of my experience there, I had probably one of the dirtiest jobs on campus. I worked in the kitchen, and I've never really talked about that, while everybody else had a bedtime of 11 o'clock, everybody slept from 11 to 6:30, 7 o'clock you had to go to the chapel. I was up at 4:30 and going to the kitchen because I was helping cook. I was washing dishes. I was wiping down tables. I was bussing tables. So it taught me that I needed to learn, whether I liked it or not, humility, and that it doesn't matter what you do. It matters what your ending is. And I don't know that I'm close to where I'm going to end up, but I take those lessons of being prepared, and in some instances being over-prepared, and understanding that it's never about me, and the humility that it takes to serve my classmates who, their parents could afford the tuition, so and mine could not. So you do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do, and that's something that I took from that. So when I came back, as you recognized, and we've said over the years, so man, you're a different cat when you came back.
Yeah, man. Shout out to your mom. By the way, you just gotta throw it in there. My niece,
Yes.
love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure we don't have to, stick with this whole
Yeah.
career thing. But that's what I wanted to get to. Because I don't think we've ever even talked about that part of it at all. Like,
Right.
as far as why you did what you did, because I just thought it was, I just thought it was odd. Like, why would he want to do this? But
Yeah.
I also, not that I thought it was odd, but we saw those types of, I guess, lessons.
Yeah.
Of transform into being in Meadowbrook's gym, shooting jumpers.
Yeah.
And that, which we're not going to talk about the basketball thing, but you played basketball, you played in college, a couple different places. You could have done more if you wanted to go that route, in my opinion. But point being, you translated or transferred those skills, those lessons into the basketball, and it kind of propelled you to where you are today. I'm sure basketball, the lessons in basketball also gave you kind of a foundation for what you're doing at this time.
Oh yeah, no, whether I was good at it or not, back in the day, the whole thing about understanding that the team is bigger than the individual, and it's important that you make sure you give everybody their opportunity in the right space to be successful. I'm not going to say I was terrific at that as a young man, because I wanted to shoot that thing.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And I worked really hard at shooting that thing, so I always felt that I should shoot that thing whenever I felt like it. So, but as you mature, you understand that just because you have a strength doesn't mean that someone else doesn't have that strength in a particular setting. And when you recognize where they can be successful in that particular setting, give them the opportunity to be successful and support them in being successful even when they fail. And so that's probably been one of the things that I've taken most from all of the athletic things that we've ever done. That it's important to understand that failure is a part of it, and not everybody's going to do things the way that you're going to do it. So you can't look at someone with your nose turned down just because they're not in the gym from first thing in the morning till late at night till the street lights come on. Like that, that's obsessive. It's actually a little crazy. But taking that understanding of getting prepared and trying to fine tune what it is you're trying to accomplish, your mission, your values, and what you're passionate about. I learned to communicate that through sports into being president of this institution. And is it always perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have things that I learn every day about myself and the people that I work with? Absolutely. Am I always looking for a lesson to learn? No. I really just want to go about the day and get things accomplished. But there are so many things that are woven in between the failures and successes that we don't account for, and that's just simply being human. So I go back to what I started off with, that if the folks that if the people that I work with every day don't feel safe, healthy, or well, that's one thing. But even more important is that they understand that I believe in them. And if you have an expectation that people will run through a wall for you, then you should run through a wall for them. So that's where I'm at, where that adage, treat others the way you want to be treated, versus I must treat myself the way that I expect for others to treat me. So it's the same thing when we talk about any approach to leading an institution, leading people, and more importantly, taking care of yourself so that you can do all those things. It begins and ends with making sure that you have some humility to know that, hey, it can be done a different way to get to the same goal, and being open to letting people show you their time, their talent, and their tenacity to get there. So, that's one of the things that I can say that I can correlate with hoops. And I've never thought that I'd ever want to say, well, I regret anything. I don't regret anything that I've ever been through, but I do wish that I would have been more open to understanding other folks and their approaches to getting things successfully accomplished at an earlier age. I'm in the third quarter, so I look at things quite a bit differently.
Indeed. We're not even going any further, man, because this was good. We're gonna save the actual details of how you got to the presidential status for another time. And we're going to talk about this childhood stuff. But we'll end on this point because I told Monique that I would ask you about this. So Monique is married to David.
Okay. Right.
I told her I would at least bring this up. So, and you mentioned failing and turning around into a success to a point. Senior year. Dietrich Graves and I held you and David Jones to 2 points between you the first time we met.
Right.
At Meadowbrook, double overtime, we won by a point.
52-50, I remember.
Man, so there was that. And y'all were mad. Y'all were not happy. I don't even know if y'all were mad or it was just like y'all were sad. After the game, I remember, I even told a story. I was like, yo, after the game, you know, those my dudes, blah, blah, blah. I went up to him trying to talk to him as we're walking down the court, and they don't say a word. I'm just talking. Nobody's talking to me. So I was like, okay. So they mad. All right. Fast forward another month or so. I think you gave us, 38?
I think the score thing was wrong. I thought I had 44. Now, I was counting. But
I'm sure you were.
The thing said 38, but I think it was 44.
Why, bro? What, was it, we've never even talked about this. Was it, were you mad? I don't understand. We held y'all to 2 points, both of y'all together, 2-0. Right. And you came back and gave us 38, and y'all dragged us in that joint. Y'all went on to, where'd y'all go? Y'all went to?
Won regions that year. Yeah.
So, I don't even know what I want you to talk about. I just want to.
Well, I can clarify. I can clarify a couple of things. One, you never make excuses for failure, and for us, as a man, you can say, well, it's not about winning, right? It's about how you play the game and that you're a good sport. I wasn't a good sport to you after that game. Absolutely not. I was disgusted, not in the fact that you guys won. I was disgusted because I let a lot of people down. I chose to play football that year, which kept me out of the gym for 2.5 months on a daily basis. And, I had a ritual. So, if you want to calculate that 1,000 shots a day, right, over 2.5 months, I didn't get that in. Right. And, it was early in the season. And again, no excuses. Y'all won that fair and square the way it was, and played the game that we were supposed to be played. But when we came back, when I got home that night, because, usually we go to McDonald's after the game and whatnot, and people would sit around and talk about what they saw and what was next. I didn't go anywhere that night. I went to my room, and I circled the next time we played y'all on my calendar. And my goal was to to drop 50. That was my goal, because Jimmy Bowman and I were going to be player of the year in the conference, and he had a 50-point night. So I really was going for 50, but I was passing the ball that night some. And so when we got to Manchester, I've always loved that gym, the darkness and the way that the backboards lit up. I could say that I was in the zone that evening, and I with purpose, with great purpose. It was I wanted to put it on y'all. Yeah. And I did the best that I could. The most important thing was to win. But definitely, anytime that you were checking me or the teacher were checking me, and if you ever go back to the tape, there are a couple of times that I made moves that I could have went to score, but I pulled the ball back out. It's like, no, come get some more of this. So, yeah. So David and I, we weren't mad at you guys at all. We were disgusted with ourselves because we felt we let a lot of people down. And like I said, I circled it, and my goal was 50, but I'd settle for 40 for 38 in the win.
Yeah. That's a memory, because I remember we all went back. I don't know why we even subjected ourselves to going back to your crib later on that night, but Yuri and I, of all people.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway,
of course.
Bruh, I love you for, well, I love you anyway, but I love you doing this.
Love you too, man.
Man, we got to do this again. I just like chopping up about our lives and just getting here.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot. Hey, Jack, come here.
Uh-oh.
Let you see the little fella. He doesn't have a shirt on right now, but he can pop his head in here. Say hello.
Flex on him.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah,
man.
He's next.
Yeah, make that happen. Well,
yeah,
respectfully, make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can't thank you enough. You know, we go back to preschool. We go back to before anybody thought about, you know, what are we going to do with ourselves, right? So I appreciate you taking the time, and one, I appreciate your friendship more than anything. You know, May 20th, I try not to never miss that date with a phone call, no matter where I've been in the world or what I'm doing. Make sure that I touch base with you on that date, and I love you, not as a brother or a cousin, but just as a human being, as a man. You know, I'm proud of all the things that you've done, and you raising your family, those two beautiful girls you got, and they get their looks from their mother.
Fair, that's fair.
Yeah. But I appreciate you bringing me on your space and chopping it up.
No doubt. We will definitely do it again. Once again, thank you, Dr. Doc. He's a doctor. Okay. All right. So,